Welcome to our wealth channel. I'm your host, your street brother mentor, Hardy Bay. My co-host is out of pocket today, Crypto Corey, but I'm here alone. I'm about to take y'all around the world. Let's get it. On this episode, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into the nitty gritty. We're going to talk about what happens when oil reaches $100 and how it affects you. We're going to talk about the Strait of Hormuz, the war in Iran, what's going on, and how also that affects you. And we're going to talk about current events here in the U.S. because oil's at $100, how that affects us at the pump. Let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, oil is roughly about $96 a barrel as of right now, and it's teetering right now on 100. We watched it last week. It went about to 119 and some change, and we watched what happened. What happened when that happened? The stock market went down crazy. Also, gas went up roughly about 50 to 60 cents at the time. So this is a very, very interesting topic, ladies and gentlemen, because when oil hits $100 a barrel, ladies and gentlemen, it affects you in so many different ways. Here's a few ways that it affects you. It affects you at the pump. We all didn't experience that today. We felt the pump over the last week. I think it went up about 50, 60 cents at the pump. That's one way it affects you. It also affects the stock market. It affects the stock market because as things increase like fuel, food costs and things like that, oil affects everything. And when there's uncertainty in the market, people tend to shut down. The stock market tends to do bad. And this is what follows the $100 oil situation. So if you would ask me, what do you do when you see oil reaches $100? What should you do, ladies and gentlemen? What would Hardy Bay do? Some of the things that I'm doing, if you have extra money, I go to the grocery store, I buy extra items that we need, that we know going up. I fill my tank up. I fill all my cars up if I can, because that matters, because we know gas is going up. The pump is the first thing we see because we drive around gas stations all day. We looking at the pump. We're watching. And I watched at the pump over last week. It went up about 50, 60 cents. Here's another thing that we watch. There's probably a lot of women, because men don't shop as much as women, is at the grocery store. Because once fuel goes up, once oil goes up, gasoline goes up, diesel jumped up about $1.10. It was crazy. And how is our food getting delivered to us, ladies and gentlemen? Through diesel, through the trucks on the road. They making it happen. So if the trucks on the road has to spend more money, that means we have to spend more money in the grocery store. It's a simple thing. It's a supply and demand cause and effect. So if prices go up in one area, especially oil, which we all need, it goes up in every other area. So I advise you guys, go out, buy some of the essential household items that you can't afford today to be able to combat the inflation that's coming your way, right? We know oil is going up, and this thing is not going away. It's here to stay, at least for a while. I don't believe what the media is saying. I don't believe what the government is saying out their mouth. Hey, this war is going to be around a long time. So I advise you to stack up and get to it, ladies and gentlemen. But let's get off into the next topic. What is going on in the Strait of Hormuz right now, and how is that affecting us? I already discussed how oil is at $100 a barrel. I discussed that. I told you how that affects you. So the Strait of Hormuz is causing that. And Iran is saying that oil can reach $200 a barrel. That is catastrophic for us in our market. We already hurting. 2025 was very, very hard for us, ladies and gentlemen. Myself, I'm a builder and developer. This thing was very, very challenging. So now we're adding on oil going over 100, possibly to 2. Dealing with the Strait of Hormuz, and they're stopping the tankers that are going through. But it gets even deeper, because as those tankers cannot get through, it supplies 20% of the oil to the world. But not only that, the 20% of the oil to the world, China needs that oil. Russia needs that oil. Europe needs that oil. And if China can't get that oil, China produces most of our products. So now the Chinese products also goes up for us. So this affects us tremendously. I don't agree with what's going on, and probably a lot of us don't agree what's going on neither. But ladies and gentlemen, we don't get to dictate what happens. It's over with we the people. We the people is over. And I talked to a gentleman the other day. I said, man, what happened to we the people? We the people was controlling the government, not the government controlling us. But as we can see, we're in a war. We the people are in a war that we didn't even want to enter. So let that sit in. But this is what's affecting us. It's hurting us diligently in the market. Like our bottom line, man, we need every dime. Every dime we need for your table, for your food. We already doing bad, man. The job report came out last week. They say in February we're down 93,000 jobs. We're starting to hit stagflation. And you might say, what is stagflation? Stagflation is when inflation and jobs are getting cut at the same time. So inflation is going up, unemployment is going up at the same time. That's called stagflation. And it's like anything. You get a dead pool. Water sitting still becomes toxic. Money sitting still becomes toxic. Our economy sitting still becomes toxic. So dead pool, that's stagflation, ladies and gentlemen. So as we continue to look and see what's going on in our economy, I advise you guys, don't just look at the news. Tune into our Wealth Channel and other podcasts that's out there around the world, BBC News, and different things like that. Get a variety of different information of what's going on. Because as you know, our government is just going to tell us what we want to hear, and what they want us to hear. And most of it not to be the truth. I always tell people, if it came across a TV screen, 9 times out of 10, it's scripted. So do your own homework, get to the meat and potatoes. This is your family. It's your job to take care of yourself. It's not the government's job to take care of us. It's your responsibilities, ladies and gentlemen. So here on our Wealth Channel, we hone in on that, on you doing your own research. I read every single day. I read a book a month. That's important to me because it's a part of my growth. I want to know what's going on in the economy. I can't tell my daughter, well, I didn't know this was happening. And she's going to look at me as a parent and say, it was your job. It was your responsibility to know what was happening. And so I'm taking on that responsibility. And this is why we started this channel, to give you guys the meat and potatoes. These are the times that we're living in, and they're very, very important that y'all stay abreast of what's going on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's jump into our last and final topic, talk about how these things affect you here in the U.S., how this is going to affect our economy back at home, and what you should do and how you should prepare for it. So the main things that I discussed, and some of this stuff is going to sound repetitive to y'all in a way, because, we're still going to talk about the economy. We're still going to talk about how the stock market will fall once oil reaches over $100. We're talking about the pump. The pump is definitely affecting us. We're talking about the grocery store. We're talking about supplies. We're talking about commerce as a whole. These things are going to affect us tremendously. So I advise you guys to prepare, stock up on items that going to particularly go up due to oil. Stock up on them items, like food and things like that. Gasoline, I already spoke upon things like that. And then maybe even invest, invest in some oil if you know what's going to happen at the end of the day. You could play with it, man, but prepare yourself for what's going on in the economy, so you'll make sure that you and your family is safe and y'all at least can combat what has happened. Because every time we don't have the ability to say, I'm not in a position, Hardy Bay, I'm not in a position to go, buy a bunch of food to stack in my refrigerator, or I'm not in a position that I can go invest in oil. I'm not in a position to maybe fill up all my cars. So what I always tell people, work with what you got. Work with what you got, man. You can do something, and these are the times to extend yourself, man. Stretch yourself, because the world is changing fast, ladies and gentlemen. So at the end of the day, you have to prepare yourself for this economy, what's going to hit you and what's coming. The war is not going away. I know Trump told us all that it's going to be over. It's going to be over very soon, very quick. Maybe if they call me uncle. It's amazing what we hear today in the media, ladies and gentlemen. So prepare yourself, understand what's going on. Until the next time in our Wealth Channel, I'm your host, Hardy Bay. I'll be back at y'all, running the game to y'all, going around the world, picking it up, man. Y'all stay tuned. Peace.